The story begins in the heart of Nairobi, where skyscrapers rise like glass spears against the sun. In one of those shining towers lived one of the richest men in East Africa. His name was Mr. Baraka Mwangi, a business tycoon, a man whose name opened doors before his footsteps ever reached them. Baraka had everything: wealth, influence, a house filled with marble floors and crystal chandeliers, cars that roared like lions when engines came to life. Yet he carried something heavier than all his riches: silence. Since the death of his wife, happiness had left his mansion. The woman who once filled every corner of the home with laughter was gone. Her photos were still everywhere, smiling gently, but her presence had turned to memory. She left behind only one child, a boy named Jamal Mwangi. Jamal was 6 years old, but his grief made him feel older. A child missing the softness of a mother's hands. A heart still learning how to beat without comfort. Though the world pitied him, Jamal rejected everyone who tried to come close. Every nanny, every caretaker, every teacher. His father hired dozens. They all failed. Some left crying. Some left scared. Some left refusing to ever return. Jamal would shout, throw things, slam doors. He locked himself away from kindness. His silence hurt more than his anger. It was his shield, his warning, his desperate scream for a mother who would never walk back through the gates. Mr. Baraka loved his son more than anything. Still, he could not heal him. Money could build a hospital in one day, but could not mend a child's broken heart. The mansion felt cursed with sadness. The staff walked carefully, whispering so the house wouldn't collapse under memories. That was when she arrived, a young woman named Aisha Njeri, 21 years old, quiet, gentle, nothing glamorous. She came from the outskirts of Nairobi, a place where the rich never looked twice. Aisha had lost both her parents. She lived simply and worked relentlessly to support her little brother back home. Her only weapon was kindness. Her only strength was patience. The guards almost turned her away at the gate. She looked too ordinary for a mansion that sparkled like royalty, yet something in her eyes made Baraka pause. Warmth, understanding, a soft courage. He decided to give her a chance. Aisha stepped into the mansion like a whisper. She looked at the framed photos of Jamal's mother. She could feel the void left behind. This house wasn't cold because of wealth. It was cold because love had been buried. When she finally met Jamal, he didn't shout at her. He didn't throw anything. He didn't run away. He stared. A long, searching stare, as if trying to decide whether she would disappear like everyone else. Aisha didn't flinch. She didn't force a smile. She knelt down to his level and spoke softly. "You don't have to like me today. I just hope you will not hate me tomorrow." Jamal blinked. Something unfamiliar flickered in his eyes. Curiosity. For the first time in years, he allowed someone into his space. Days passed. Jamal started sitting closer to Aisha during meals. He handed her toys not to play but as a silent invitation to stay. Some nights she would hear his soft crying when nightmares brought his mother back, only to take her away again. Aisha would sit outside his room, humming softly until he fell asleep. The mansion began to breathe again. The halls echoed with footsteps instead of loneliness. Mr. Baraka watched carefully. He felt fear, hope, confusion. He had never seen anyone reach his son like this quiet maid. He began to notice Aisha more. Her patience, her smile, her strength hidden beneath simplicity. He admired her, perhaps too much. One evening, tragedy knocked on their calm like a violent storm. Jamal collapsed during dinner. His tiny body trembled. No one understood what was happening. Sirens wailed across Nairobi roads as Mr. Baraka carried his son, shouting his name with a father's terror. Aisha never left Jamal's side, clutching his small hand the entire way to the hospital. Doctors rushed him into the emergency room. Baraka stood shaking, a billionaire helpless against fate once again. His breathing broke into pieces. Even without speaking, Aisha's presence told him he wasn't alone. Several hours later, the doctor returned. His face held serious news. "Jamal needs immediate surgery. There's internal damage we must fix tonight." Baraka almost fell to the ground. He grabbed Aisha's hand like a drowning man clinging to a lifeline. "You stay with him," he pleaded. "If he wakes up frightened, he will need you." Aisha nodded, eyes filled with steady courage. The doors to surgery closed. Outside, Baraka whispered to the silent corridor, "If God lets me keep my son, I will protect the woman who saved him too." The surgical lights glowed like a harsh sun above Jamal's tiny body. Machines beeped, metal tools clinked. The doctors worked with urgency, fighting a battle inside the fragile chest of a child who already knew too much heartbreak. Outside the operating room, Mr. Baraka paced the hallway. His footsteps echoed through the quiet like thunder trapped in marble. This was a man who built empires, a man who negotiated billion-dollar deals without sweating. Yet, at this moment, he was powerless. All the money in Nairobi, all the investments in Dubai, all the alliances he held could not guarantee his son's next breath. Aisha sat beside him. She didn't speak. Grief had already taught her that silence can be the strongest comfort. Every so often she would glance toward the operating room doors, whispering silent prayers. Her fingers were tightly wrapped around Jamal's small teddy bear, carrying his fear for him until he could carry it again. Time crawled. Then the doctor stepped out. His face was tired, his scrubs stained. Baraka's heart nearly stopped. The doctor said, "Jamal survived. The surgery was successful." Baraka exhaled a breath he didn't know he had been holding. Relief flowed from his eyes in the form of tears he rarely allowed anyone to see. He pulled Aisha into a tight embrace, burying his fear into her shoulder. She held him back firmly, steadying the billionaire who rarely needed support. The doctor continued speaking. "We must talk about his health moving forward. Jamal has a rare heart condition. It is not caused by anything you did. Sometimes life writes its own stories." Baraka nodded, though those words struck like arrows. The doctor's final statement cracked the thin wall of hope. He must avoid emotional stress. Any shock could endanger his heart. He needs stability, and someone he trusts. All eyes turned toward Aisha. Days grew into weeks. Jamal recovered slowly. The hospital became a temporary home. Though nurses tried to help, the only person Jamal would speak to was Aisha. She fed him, read to him, sat through his moods, and even braided little braids into his hair with playful tenderness. Whenever nightmares dragged him back to that cruel darkness, Aisha's voice guided him into calm again. Mr. Baraka visited every day. He stood at the door sometimes watching the two of them, a quiet boy laughing again, a maid turning sorrow into hope. He couldn't explain why his heart beat differently now. He only knew that the greatest treasure he owned wasn't in his bank accounts. She was right in front of him. When Jamal was finally discharged, Baraka insisted on a grand welcome home celebration. The mansion staff prepared balloons, lights, and a massive cake shaped like a lion. Cameras flashed. Business partners and wealthy friends arrived, dressed in expensive suits, wanting to be seen supporting the man of power. It all overwhelmed Jamal. Bright lights, loud voices, fake smiles. His little heart raced dangerously. Aisha saw the panic first. She rushed to him, scooped him into her arms, shielding him from the noise. She whispered, "You are safe. You are loved. Breathe with me." Baraka's eyes widened as he saw how his son instantly calmed. He raised his voice and ordered everyone out. His tone was sharp, carrying the authority of a king whose castle had been threatened. When the mansion grew quiet again, Baraka apologized to Aisha. "You are the reason my son is still alive." Aisha shook her head. "I only stood where he needed someone to stand." Baraka stared at her, seeing strength far greater than diamonds or gold. He made a decision that would change all their lives. "Aisha, I want you to stay in this house permanently, not as a maid, as Jamal's caregiver. You will have anything you need. Just don't leave us." Aisha hesitated. She thought of her little brother back home. She thought of the fear of stepping into a world where she did not belong. She thought of the wealth surrounding her like a giant she was not ready to face. Then she looked at Jamal. His eyes begged her for a future. She nodded. "Then I stay." That night, as Jamal slept peacefully for the first time in months, Aisha stood on the balcony overlooking the sparkling Nairobi skyline. She wondered whether fate had brought her into this life, or if she was simply borrowing borrowed time. Mr. Baraka joined her quietly. "You changed everything," he said. She looked down shyly. "I only tried to give him what he lost." Baraka's voice softened. "And who gives you what you lost?" Her breath caught. She didn't answer. The stars above Nairobi shone brighter, as if they knew hearts were shifting inside the silent night. Below those stars, a seed of something forbidden began to grow. Respect, admiration, a fragile warmth too dangerous to name. What none of them knew was this: someone else was watching. Someone who didn't like how close Aisha had become to the center of this powerful life. Someone who believed a girl like her should never rise beyond the servant's door. Jealousy whispered its first warning. Trouble was coming. Life settled into a new rhythm inside the Mwangi mansion. Sunlight returned to the halls. Staff whispered about miracles whenever Jamal laughed. The boy carried a small notebook everywhere now, drawing childish pictures of the only two people he trusted, his father and Aisha. Hope shaped his days like gentle hands guiding him forward. Yet money attracts eyes that do not smile with kindness. Mr. Baraka's relatives noticed the change, especially Catherine Mwangi, Baraka's younger sister, and one of Nairobi's most feared business strategists. Her heels clicked like accusations when she walked, and she always smelled of expensive perfume and sharp ambition. When she visited the mansion and saw Aisha helping Jamal with a puzzle, her expression darkened. She pulled Baraka aside. "You are letting that house girl get too comfortable." Baraka stiffened. "She saved Jamal's life." Catherine crossed her arms. "She is a servant, not family. You cannot let emotions dictate your decisions, especially when you're worth billions." Baraka turned away, refusing to let her poison reach his heart. Catherine watched him leave, a thin smile forming. She wasn't done. Wealth taught her patience and cruelty. Aisha continued working with quiet grace. She helped Jamal learn to breathe slower when fear tried to crush his heart. She taught him small Swahili songs his mother once loved. Their bond grew into something unbreakable. There were evenings where Baraka returned home exhausted. He found Aisha telling stories to Jamal under a blanket tent decorated with tiny flashlights like stars. He would stand by the door, letting the warmth of the moment melt the pressure off his shoulders. Sometimes he stayed long enough to hear a full story, even though he pretended he was just passing by. One late night, Jamal woke crying from a nightmare. He kept calling for his mother. Aisha rushed to his room before anyone else, wrapped him in her arms, and hummed a melody she created on the spot. Baraka watched quietly from the doorway, seeing Aisha soothe the storms his money could never calm. Jamal clung to her shirt and whispered, "Don't ever leave me." That whisper echoed into Baraka's soul too. Days passed, connections deepened, danger sharpened its teeth. Catherine began speaking with the staff secretly, spreading rumors like wildfire. She is after Baraka's fortune. She wants to replace his wife. She will ruin everything. A few servants began treating Aisha with coldness. Some refused to meet her eyes. She noticed. Her heart bruised silently. One afternoon, Aisha was helping Jamal water the flowers in the garden. He looked up and asked, "Aisha, are you sad?" She kissed the top of his head. "Sadness visits sometimes, but it does not stay if we don't feed it." Jamal nodded like he understood everything she meant. Then came the day Baraka made a decision that shocked everyone. He announced a private dinner, just him and Aisha. He asked her to dress nicely. He wanted to thank her properly for what she had done, not in the shadows, not in silence. When Aisha entered the dining room that night, she wore a simple but beautiful dress he had bought for her. Baraka stood frozen for a moment. His heart forgot the rules of wealth. She wasn't a maid in that moment. She was a light he wasn't ready for. They talked about Jamal, about life, about the years Aisha lost raising her little brother alone. Baraka listened in a way no billionaire ever had time for. At the end of dinner, His voice trembled slightly. "You brought my son back to me. I never want to lose you." Aisha's breath shook. She lowered her eyes. "Mr. Baraka, people will misunderstand. They already are." Baraka reached gently across the table. "Let them misunderstand. My life changed the day you stepped into it." It was not a confession of love. Not yet. Though love was standing only one heartbeat away. What neither of them noticed was the shadow near the hallway. Catherine had watched every second, her face twisted in disgust. Later that night, Catherine called a private meeting with the family lawyer. "She has to disappear from this story, permanently." The lawyer hesitated. "Madam, removing her might upset Mr. Baraka." Catherine smiled coldly. "He will thank me when his empire remains intact." Meanwhile, back in Jamal's room, Aisha tucked him into bed. He grabbed her hand before sleep carried him away. "You are my favorite person," he murmured. Aisha turned off the lamp and whispered to the darkness, "I will protect you, no matter what." She didn't know that protection would soon be tested. The mansion's doors locked for the night, but trouble was already inside. Someone unknown slipped a threatening note under Aisha's bedroom door. "Leave while you still can." The morning after Aisha found that note, she woke with a knot in her stomach. Fear always arrives quietly, but once inside, it refuses to leave. She tucked the paper deep inside her pillowcase and whispered to herself that maybe it was a joke. Her eyes told a different story. In the hallway, the mansion staff moved like usual, but there was a new chill in the air. Some refused to greet her. Others stared like she was a stain on polished marble floors. She kept her shoulders straight and walked proudly, refusing to bend just because others wished she would disappear. She served Jamal breakfast. He giggled when she cut his pancakes into heart shapes. That little sound reminded her why she stayed. After breakfast, Mr. Baraka arrived home from a late board meeting. He loosened his tie, exhaustion weighing on every step. When he saw Aisha, something flickered, relief hidden inside admiration. "I hope you slept well," he said gently. Aisha nodded, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Baraka noticed. He always noticed her now. "Is everything all right?" he asked. She hesitated. Should she confess? Show him the threatening note? Or keep him from worrying when he already fought battles in boardrooms and hospitals? "I'm fine," she finally whispered. Baraka didn't push. He simply nodded with a soft concern that lingered. Meanwhile, Catherine was in her private office, dialing numbers with speed and venom. Her voice was sugar-coated steel as she spoke into the phone. "I want everything on that girl, her family, her past, her weaknesses. If there is a way to legally remove her, we will find it." Aisha's life was being dissected without her knowledge. That night, Jamal convinced Aisha to watch his favorite animated movie with him. They sat in his blanket tent, stars made of tiny flashlights once again lighting the moment. Jamal leaned on her shoulder halfway through the film, eyelids growing heavy. Baraka quietly entered the room, leaning against the doorframe. He watched the scene like a man discovering home for the first time since heartbreak stole it from him. When Jamal drifted into sleep, Aisha carefully tucked him in. She whispered a short prayer near his forehead. Baraka stepped closer. "Thank you," he said. "For what?" she asked quietly. "For being the piece of life that I didn't know was missing." She looked up, eyes shining but confused. "I didn't plan any of this," she replied. "I know," he said. "That's what makes you different." Silence wrapped around them, rich and heavy. He reached for her hand. She didn't pull away. That spark, dangerous, beautiful, caught fire between their fingers. Before either could speak, Catherine appeared in the doorway, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Touching, really. Baraka stiffened. Aisha stepped back. Catherine continued, "You forget your place, brother. You are a Mwangi, a public figure, a billionaire. Nairobi watches your every move." She looked at Aisha with icy precision. "And you. You forget you are hired help." Baraka's voice turned sharp. That is enough. Catherine smiled. A smile with knives inside. You have a board meeting tomorrow morning. You need sleep. I'll take over from here. Baraka clenched his jaw. He wanted to refuse. Yet for Jamal's sake he walked away, casting one last apologetic glance toward Aisha. As soon as he was gone, Catherine stepped close, lowering her voice to a threat. Leave before you destroy him, or I will destroy you first. Aisha held her ground. Her voice didn't shake. I'm not here for money or power. I'm here for Jamal. Catherine laughed softly. Then let me teach you something about power. It doesn't care who you are. It only cares who wins. She turned and left, satisfied that her warning had pierced deep. Aisha returned to her room with trembling hands. She sank onto the bed, the threatening note still hidden but louder now in her thoughts. For a moment, she allowed tears to fall. She missed her small, peaceful life. She missed not being hated for simply caring. Yet, quitting would break Jamal's heart, and walking away from Baraka, that felt impossible too. The next morning, more chaos arrived. The family lawyer appeared with documents, cold papers that cut deeper than any knife. Aisha and Jerry, he announced sternly. Due to breaches of professionalism and inappropriate involvement with the Mwangi family, you are hereby dismissed, effective immediately. Jamal screamed, "No!" He grabbed Aisha's hand, his little body shaking. Baraka rushed in like a storm. What nonsense is this? The lawyer adjusted his glasses. It is what your sister demands. She has convinced the board this is in the best interest of your son and company reputation. Baraka's rage was volcanic. You do not make decisions about my family. He turned to Aisha. His voice softened painfully. You are not leaving this house over my dead body. Catherine stepped into the room, face smug. Try to stop me, she whispered. Jamal clung harder to Aisha as his heartbeat spiked too fast. He gasped. His breaths came sharp and shallow. His chest tightened like a fist squeezing a fragile heart. Aisha panicked. His heart. He can't handle this stress. Baraka swept Jamal into his arms while Aisha pressed a hand to his chest, guiding him through slow breaths. Tears blurred her vision. The boy finally calmed. But everyone saw it. His condition could cost him his life at any moment. Baraka turned toward Catherine. His voice was cold enough to freeze an entire ocean. If you ever endanger my son again, I will cut you out of my life, permanently. Catherine's expression faltered at the lethal seriousness in his tone. Jamal held onto Aisha's shirt like a lifeline and whispered, Please don't leave. Aisha looked at Baraka, the fear, the love, the war inside him, all visible. She nodded and hugged Jamal tightly. I'm not going anywhere, she promised. What she didn't know was that someone else in the mansion and was already planning a more permanent way to remove her. Lights flickered, trust cracked, love became a target, and in a billionaire's world, threats don't stay as words for long. The mansion tried to return to normal after the lawyer's attack, but normal had already died. Every time Aisha walked into a room, whispers chased her. Envy thickened the air like smoke. Jamal barely let her out of his sight. His drawings changed too. He started sketching 3 figures holding hands, with a dark shadow watching from the corner. Baraka increased security around his son, guards at every gate, cameras in every hallway. Still, fear refused to leave his chest. He didn't trust his own walls anymore. He didn't trust his own blood. One evening, Baraka called Aisha to his private study. His tone was gentle but heavy with something unsaid. Aisha, I must send Catherine away for a while, he said. Her intentions are dangerous. Aisha looked worried. She is family. Won't removing her create more trouble? Baraka leaned forward. Sometimes the biggest threat comes from people who share your last name. His eyes softened. You are part of this family now, whether my sister accepts it or not. Aisha swallowed hard. She wasn't used to being valued like this. Her heart raced at the sound of his voice saying those words. What exactly am I to this family? She asked quietly. Baraka opened his mouth to answer. Before the truth escaped, his phone buzzed violently. He glanced down, and his face turned pale. A security alert. Jamal's room. Baraka and Aisha raced through the mansion, pulse pounding like war drums. They reached Jamal's door. His bed was empty, the window open, curtains flapping like panicked birds. Aisha screamed his name. Baraka roared for the guards. Chaos exploded. Outside, tires screeched. A black SUV sped toward the back gate. Baraka sprinted after it without thought, fury replacing fear. Security chased too. Aisha's legs moved before her mind caught up. The SUV hit the corner of the gate. Guards surrounded it. Doors flew open. A masked man tried to escape with Jamal in his arms. Aisha lunged with a scream ripped straight from the core of a mother's soul. She clawed at the kidnapper, kicking and fighting harder than her thin frame should allow. Baraka tackled the attacker to the ground. Rage gave him strength he didn't know he had. Guards restrained the man, while Aisha clutched Jamal, breath shaking, tears soaking his hair. The boy's heart raced dangerously. His breaths were too fast. He started trembling. Aisha immediately began guiding him through calming breaths. "I'm here. You're safe. Nothing will take you from me." Baraka knelt beside them, arms around both. His voice broke. "My son. My everything. I'm here." Jamal finally steadied. His tiny hands gripped Aisha and Baraka at the same time, refusing to let go. Police arrived. The attacker was dragged away. Baraka demanded answers, his voice thunder cracking through the night. "Who sent you?" The man smirked. "She did." He nodded toward the mansion, toward Catherine's wing. Baraka felt something inside him snap, his veins filled with betrayal instead of blood. He stormed into the mansion with fire in his eyes. Catherine stood waiting, arms crossed, pretending confusion. Baraka slammed the damning evidence, the note, the security footage, the attacker's confession, onto the table. "You tried to take my son to get to her." Catherine's face stayed cold. "I did what needed to be done. That woman is destroying our family legacy." Baraka stepped closer, breathing like a man holding back a storm. "My son almost died because of you." For the first time, Catherine's confidence cracked. She took a step back. "You have lost yourself, Baraka, all because of a girl who doesn't belong in our world." Baraka whispered one final sentence that ended their relationship. "She belongs exactly where love needs her." He turned to the guards. "Remove her from this home. Permanently." Catherine's scream echoed, but Baraka didn't look back. Aisha waited with Jamal in the living room. When Baraka walked in, his shoulders sagged under the weight of what nearly happened. He sat beside Aisha slowly. Silence pulsed between them. Aisha finally spoke, voice thin with pain. "I should leave. I'm causing all this chaos." Baraka turned toward her sharply. "No, the chaos comes from jealousy, from greed, from people who have forgotten what love looks like." Aisha's eyes filled again. "And what does love look like?" she whispered. Baraka reached for her hand. This time, neither pulled away. It looks like you, he breathed. Her heart sank and lifted at once. Baraka, I am not like you. I don't have riches. I was never trained for luxury. Baraka shook his head. I have spent years surrounded by luxury. None of it ever touched my heart. You did. You saved my future. You saved my son. You saved me. His thumb brushed a tear from her cheek. I love you, Aisha and Jerry. Jamal, still holding on to both of them, looked up with soft, sleepy eyes. Then stay with us forever, he whispered. Aisha couldn't hold the tears anymore. She nodded, her voice trembling with truth. I love you both, more than anything. Baraka pulled her into his arms. Not a fairy tale hug, a desperate, grateful relief that love had found him again after death tried to steal it. Jamal squeezed between them, giggling weakly through his fear. For the first time since tragedy shattered this family, they felt whole. Outside, Nairobi's city lights sparkled like blessings from the night sky, but the final battle for their happiness wasn't over yet.